Easthampton Media kindly sent Ryan over to turn us on. City Council is required to videotape as often as possible all of its meetings. So this is a subcommittee meeting, and the meeting will come to order. So we are on video this evening. It's being recorded as not live broadcast. May I have a motion? We got the minutes from...
I move to approve the minutes of the last meeting as submitted.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Before we continue, Councilor Kwasinski, do you want to make a statement?
I do. Before the council begins its deliberations regarding whether or not Easthampton should adopt Mass General Laws, Chapter 32B, Sections 21 and 22, I wanted to let everyone know I'm choosing to step aside and not participate as a city councilor in these deliberations. Now, the finance director has explained to me that a yes or a no vote doesn't affect the other 68 communities that are involved in the trust, but only affects our city employees and retirees who have health care benefits right here. Although I don't contribute or participate in health care benefits through the city of Easthampton, our family health insurance is through another community, a member of the Hampshire Group Trust, one of the other 68 communities. So I will not be participating as a counselor. I do reserve the right to act as a private citizen, however, should I choose to do so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mayor communication. Mayor, do you have anything other than 32B to inform the Finance Committee?
I do not.
All right. Okay, we'll go right to new business. Let me explain what we're going to do tonight. We're going to be doing fact-finding a lot. This is a very complicated issue. There will be no vote this evening. I, for one, need to absorb what is being said. So the Finance Committee won't conclude these deliberations until next week. My first question to Councilor Lynch, Councilor McCoy, can you do next week at 6 o'clock in these chambers to make a decision on this or to continue? Because I want to announce it if we can.
Next
Wednesday the 30th, we don't have a council meeting. This is a 5 Wednesday month, I guess.
I'll tentatively say yes. I'm not positive. I'll have to double check, but this is obviously
I'm in.
Okay.
last minute.
So we will meet next week, 6 o'clock in these chambers to continue wherever we left off and probably make a recommendation. This is in finance because the Finance Committee does review health care as it is part of the budget. We know a lot about it because we review its content, its cost to the city's taxpayers every year, and this is a financial matter. Normally we have informal subcommittee meetings in which everybody is in a smaller room. Very few people usually attend, and we kind of have informal questioning. Tonight I would like to do this in a more formal way. I will ask the Finance Committee to ask questions of the person who's coming to the podium, whom I'll call up, and then I will ask other councilors. We have Councilor Coniff and Councilor Derby here this evening to also ask questions should they choose. With that being said, I'd like to start with the mayor. Mayor, can you present your proposal?
Yes.
Anything you want to add to what you said the other day? And I'll open it up.
Just some quick talking points, and you have a little more data and
Do you want to turn off the, I don't know how to do that.
I don't know how to do this.
I think a light just blinked.
It takes a minute for that to,
Okay.
but we'll turn the lights down above the, do you see a light coming on up there?
Yes.
Okay, so let that warm up while, and you can say other things.
All right. Just looking for the T.
I think it's the first one does those. No? Must be one at the end of the hall, that's weird.
Okay, it's coming.
There you go. Oh, we know your password. Go Eagles.
No, that's anybody who uses this.
By the way, I will conclude this meeting at 8 o'clock, and we'll continue from where we left off. I believe after 2 hours, we kind of lose, especially all of us work, a lot of us work. So I'd rather not go beyond 2 hours this evening. But I'll make sure everybody next week who hasn't been able to speak gets a chance.
Great.
There you go.
I have made paper copies for members of the council and have sent to the city clerk a PDF of these materials for public consumption. Thank you, Chairman Riss, for the opportunity to address this very important topic for the city of Easthampton. I am going to do just a quick overview of why I'm asking for the adoption of 21 and 22 under Chapter 22B. Just a quick proposal. I'm going to then bring up the Finance Director to go over some key points, as well as consultants and the Executive Director of the Trust, just to answer technical questions which you had requested at our last meeting.
Yeah, I will do that, but I would like to allow the counselors and the committee to ask you questions first.
Absolutely.
And then you can bring up whoever you want. After that,
Sure.
we'll ask that person questions, et cetera. Okay?
Understood.
All right.
Understood. So my petition before you right now for the 21 and 22 really goes to an overall theme I have around really stabilizing Easthampton's fiscal position now and going forward, and looking at health insurance costs. We all know that they are wildly in flux. There are a lot of changes going on. And with Easthampton being such a small municipality, it is key for us to be a member of a larger group such as the Trust. So we can take the benefit of being a part of a larger negotiating group for health insurance. The Trust provides that with 69 other municipalities participating in the Trust, which allows us to get a wider option of benefits for our employees, and also some relief from premium swings compared to us being on our own or into another insurance plan. Without this stability, we are going to see a clear a detriment and impact on other essential municipal employee and municipal rely on. To look at the Trust, it's the highest level of health insurance benefits at the lowest consistent price. The Trust, the way the Trust works is interesting in that it is truly a trust. Member units, the members of the Trust are cities, they're towns, they're regional school districts, they can be water districts, and they are the units. The Trust goes out and negotiates a benefit package plan based on the units and premium. Each member unit, i.e. Easthampton or Gateway or South Hadley or Hadley, then is obligated by law to offer that same package of benefits to every class of employees within the unit. For us, that is the city of Easthampton. I lost my place. There we go. I'm working off of paper and a PowerPoint. Clearly a danger.
Begins with FY 2013, that next
Yeah.
page on our.
So the key and the transition here, I will make to go over the next few slides. We have to, as a member of the Trust, turn around and provide the same plan, the same bucket of benefits to every single employee. And that brings us to the exact reason why I'm before you today, is that for the first time, the Trust has plan design benefits. There's a plan design coming at us, and under the law, we have to adopt 21 and 22 to stay in the Trust, because we cannot, I would say, amend or negotiate individual plan tweaks and changes from what the Trust has given us under law. 21 and 22 allows those changes to be happen in a smooth, seamless way where Easthampton and all of the employees can really benefit from the best health insurance package out there for a city our size.
Can I stop you a
Yeah.
second? Because what you just said shocked me a little bit. Maybe I misunderstood.
Mhm.
If we don't adopt 21 and 22, we're being kicked out of the Hampshire Trust?
So pause. Let me bring Melissa up to walk through the history, and then the next slide is why now.
I just want the answer to that question. Is that what's on the table?
If
We
can't-
don't adopt 21 and 22,
Right.
and the city, is the Hampshire Trust going to say, well, we can't, they want all their members in towns to participate in 21 and 22, or they can't participate anymore with the Hampshire Trust?
When we go into the trust,
Mm-hmm.
we say, Easthampton, we want to be a member of your trust to leverage, to work with 69 communities.
Right.
Right, to get the best deal. The deal back from the trust is, we will get you this package, and this package must by law, by the trust, be the same for every employee.
Okay.
So we cannot say that PEG will have no copays, but Salem is going to have a copay of $1,000 for anything he does.
He deserves that.
Just
It's
an
not that far off
example.
from the truth.
But that said, what the trust puts forward as a package of benefits, as a member of the trust, we are obligated then to offer that same plan to all classes of employees.
Okay. But that didn't answer my question.
So if we don't adopt 21 and 22, we have collective bargaining agreements to the contrary. We will break, may I bring Melissa up?
Sure.
Thank you.
Go ahead, because this is a little different than what I thought was happening here. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So to answer the question directly, can we be kicked out? No. Can we be put in a position where we are no longer able to procure benefits from the trust because we are no longer able to meet the obligations of the collective bargaining agreements, and therefore the trust is no longer an option? That is a possibility.
It's a possibility.
It's a possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this is not the first time I've been here. And so a little history for those who don't recall. Back in fiscal 2013, Mayor Tasnick has submitted to the council to adopt Chapter 32B, Section 21 to 23 at that time. And the goals of that legislation have not changed. The goal of the legislation is to allow health insurance plan design changes such as those ones proposed by the trust at this time, while ensuring municipal unions the opportunity to negotiate. So there is a negotiation path through 21 and 22. It is understandably different and maybe not so popular with those in the room. Currently, we are asking for sections 21 and 22 only. The substantial difference there is that 23 is the act of the law which allows the city to join the GIC. We are not asking for that at this time. It also, if the city was to adopt 23, which we said back in 2013, it does not require the city to join the GIC. It just makes it available as an option if in the future at any time somebody would want to do that. But that's not what we're asking for today.
Oh, just wait that way.
So unlike in 2013, the trust has changed its, in this fiscal year, they tried to make plan design changes. They were, those were held back primarily, I believe, because not enough communities had adopted 21 and 22, and they felt that it would be, that they would put the communities in jeopardy of not being able to participate. Is that fair, Joe? Okay. And I believe that if the city wants to continue working with the Hampshire County Insurance Group Trust, that if we want to continue working with them, the unions must accept these plan design changes should they be voted this month at the larger group of the the larger group of the trust by all 69 communities. And I also believe that for the city of Easthampton, the trust is the best option for all of its employees and for Easthampton, mostly because of its price point. And even with plan design changes, I still believe it's a very rich plan. I think it offers a lot of benefits, and comparably at less expense to both the employees and the employer, both in co-pays and deductibles than other plans of its type. And finally, 21 and 22 ensures fair and equitable treatment of all the unions and non-union groups and the retirees. So I believe that 21 and 22, the retiree group has a voting member, whereas in 150E, as a retiree, you're no longer a voting member and therefore do not have say in how we negotiate the plan design. I mean, it's really not you're not negotiating the health insurance, you're negotiating the mitigation of what the plan design costs are. So if we say, oh, we're gonna save $1 million, and those, the city's gonna save $750,000 of that savings, how do we redistribute the pot of money to acknowledge in the first calendar year that the employees are bearing a higher cost as they utilize the insurance? And that's the part that is negotiated. And I will also say that I think that is the fairest and easiest path to getting this. And it doesn't have different deals for different groups. And then I also think that it's worth mentioning that there is an option within the law to pause or terminate these agreements under 21 and 22 and go back to 150E bargaining, but I believe that both parties have to agree, both management and the unions have to agree to that. But it's not completely off the table. If we can't come to an agreement under this plan and we don't choose to go through, there's a state panel process.
Can I just ask a couple questions?
Sure.
You said that 23 is not being proposed now.
It is
If
not.
we wanted to adopt 23, you would still have to come to the city council for that adoption.
Yes, I mean,
Right.
or you could modify the vote, but I don't think that's what we want to do today.
No,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I'm just saying the city council still has to debate that. It's not something you can do. Just
Right.
decide
So
to go to the
just
GIS if you
Just
want.
like 21 and 22, each
All right.
section needs to be adopted on its own merits.
And is 150E, is that the
150E is the bargaining rights of.
bargaining rights of the employees? Okay. I had some questions for you since you're there, Melissa. And then I'll ask the other counselors. How much did our health insurance go up last year? Do you have that figure in your head?
I think it was around 5%, but I don't have the exact number.
5%. What other thing did I ask? Okay, you said there's 69 towns. How many of them, I was going to ask Joe this, but you know this because you're on the executive board. How many of them have adopted 21 and 22?
So I don't have the exact number, and I did ask Joe that, but I know that.
Well, I'll ask him when he comes up.
Yeah, I mean, I know we got a pretty, you got a kind of good list. I mean,
Well, again, there's 69 units, there's probably 15 or 20 that don't have any bargaining units.
Let's wait, okay, until you get to the table, if that's a complicated answer. That's all I have right now. Does anybody have any questions from Melissa? Wait, Finance Committee members first?
Yeah, the only question I had, I just want clarity, if we take and adopt this, the only part that is negotiable is what we would save. So we would save, like in your example, the $750,000, how that gets dispersed, and that's the only negotiating. That's what you're.
Right, so that's the negotiation of plan design changes because we're a member of the trust and we don't have a whole lot of say in how those plans design look. I mean, I did have input into what was proposed by the trust, but then, the other thing is to go outside the trust, but I think for us, the reason that we're here asking for 21 and 22 is to stay in the trust, and therefore, whatever is accepted by the trust as plan design, that's That's what we have to accept
Can I
or not
follow up
accept.
on that?
Sure, absolutely.
But if we were to be like direct with an insurance company, we then might be able to negotiate individual packages, but I just think it's cost prohibitive for Easthampton to do that.
So, in your example, 750,000, let's say that's the savings, because we
I
adopt
just wanna be
what,
clear that that's an exaggeration.
whatever, let's say it's $500,000. If we save a large amount of money because we adopt, because of the plan design changes, that money then is put into a pool, or wherever you put it, a fund, that you use to negotiate with all of the employees how that can mitigate the cost changes. Am I reading that right?
So there's a special committee that's joined, there's like a.
The advisory group and
Yeah,
some, yeah.
and they have a vote, they're the ones that negotiate with management as to how that looks, and there's a percentage, of the savings, I believe it's 25% of the savings that is
remember
mandated
this.
by the law that we, take and, disperse in some way to the, union groups and all the participants based on what the union groups, bargain for. And it can be done a number of ways, but there's where they have the most input, yes.
So that advisory group, they don't have a way of debating the plan design or the changes. They are basically, if we adopt this, allowing or negotiating how that money is dispersed?
Correct, and the reason that we don't have a way of debating plan design is because we're part of a group that collectively is 69 units has decided what plan design is, and each unit must participate in that end plan design. Different, if the trust was structured differently, there are other trusts that are structured in such a way that each individual unit can create its own plan design. However, that means that your experience rating or your usage is sort of stands alone, and therefore you don't have the benefit of the larger group pool of, well, the people in Hadley are healthy this year, while the people in, Belchertown are sick, and, so, but at the end of the day, it works out versus, oh, well, Easthampton had a really bad year this year, and, if you have 6 car accidents, you go for car insurance.
Okay.
You know what it looks like, right?
I'm sorry, I keep coming up with things to ask you. How does it happen now? Have there been plan design changes in the past without these sections being adopted? And how are they negotiated now with
The trust
which we
has-
have an insurance advisory group, I guess, that does
So
it now?
The insurance at the trust, the plan design itself, while the rates have gone up, the design has not changed in 20 years.
Oh, okay.
So, it hasn't come up in a while. And I think that time we went from, a $10 to a $15 copay, and that was the only change proposed at that time.
So the plan design changes haven't happened, but we've had premium changes.
Right. It's not true?
We've had premium increases?
Yes.
We also had medication
All
increases.
right, I got it.
I'll
But
discredit it all.
we've had, you just said the plan has gone up. I was just asking if premiums have gone up,
Yes.
but not the design of the plan.
Well, yeah, I
I-
don't track the prescriptions, but I believe him, yeah.
Okay, well, I'll get Joe up to make
Yeah.
sure about that. And in Easthampton, we have a 75-25% distribution. In other words, 75% of premiums are paid by the city and 20, am I correct on that? I heard
25 by
that.
employees, 75% by the employer.
And I've heard that other cities and towns, I don't know, I think it's Hatfield, 50-50. A lot of cities and towns have different distributions.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I have. Counselors, Joe or Bill, do you have any more for Melissa?
I'm okay right now.
Okay, a couple of questions. So, obviously, right now, I'm not saying it's right, but insurance is not equal amongst all the employees we have now, right? I mean, pay plan probably doesn't have the same.
Nope, it's equal amount all employees. We all have the same benefits. We all are 75-25, we all participate in the same plan. It looks the same for me as it looks for Jason, as it looks for Nellie.
Except for retirees. They're 50-50.
Okay, well, that's interesting. All right.
Okay, and so how, if this was adopted, you said the negotiating ability is still there, but it changes. How, can you briefly tell me how the collective bargaining negotiation would change with or without 21 and 22?
Sure. So as I understand it, I have more union experts in the room than me, but as I understand it, under 21 and 22, we create a sort of a public employees committee to negotiate only the benefit of health insurance, or this mitigation of the health insurance, as one unit. We have 7 employee group unions, and so if we were to negotiate under 150E, we would have to individually open at each bargaining unit that chose to challenge under 150E and negotiate those changes with those 7 groups. We would have no requirement to do anything for pay plan employees or the retirees.
Would you say negotiate those, I'm sorry, Joe.
No, go ahead.
Negotiate those changes, you mean the cost mitigation or actual plan design changes?
Well, again, in order to stay in the trust, we have no control over plan design.
Okay, all right, all right.
So what's left is the difference of plan design. This chapter is designed so that you can quote insurance with plan design, and it's designed to save municipalities money under plan design or protect self-insured groups like the trust under plan design so that they remain viable and stable.
Joe, any more?
So I guess because we're having this discussion, you anticipate a significant plan change from the trust? Is
Yes,
that-
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe will go over
Yeah.
what was
Okay.
proposed.
Yeah, I think we saw a little bit of it already.
Yeah.
And I think I missed a little bit of it. So the process before 21 and 22 to negotiate and post 21, 22, how are they different?
So 21 and 22, we negotiate plan designs with one group, and that those changes that are negotiated with those groups, or those mitigation costs that are divided among those groups, are spread among the employees in the same way. There's one negotiation, one answer. We're going to do it this way or that way. And then the challenge, I guess, with 150E in my mind is that we could have 7 different answers. We could have a group that just wouldn't agree, which would stall everyone else, because we can't allow the pay plan employees to participate in the group insurance trust and then offer different insurance through a different provider to the DPW department.
Anything else, Joe?
No.
Peg.
So my disclaimer is that I work for a Fortune 6 health insurer, and look on the stock exchange, you should be able to figure it out. And so my question is, will there be any discussion tonight ever, or is part of the trust any products that come from the commercial industry? Like, will you be working with Blue Cross, Aetna, United Healthcare?
So the trust is self-insured, and their administrator is Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Okay. Okay.
So we don't have any quotes from any other providers at this time. I will say that last time we did that, but it is really moot without this, because we have collective bargaining agreements that hold us to Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Okay. So that means I can continue on the discussion, so yay. Because I don't work for Blue Cross. So where I'm confused a little bit is the comment of today, everybody has the same insurance.
Yep.
So Nellie, teachers, police,
Yep.
pay plan.
Yep.
So if I'm really confused. So then this is really removing individual negotiating with all those unions, although we end up at the same place even when we are doing the negotiations, because we all end up at the same.
But we haven't tried to
Insurance.
make a change this dramatic in 20 years, so I think that that's why it's, you know, like, as long as everything stays the same and insurance premiums go up by whatever they go up, or they don't go up, we had many years with zeros with the trust, then, you know, we're all 25/75, we all get, you know, the same health insurance. And if we're part of the trust, there's not there's not a cafeteria list of things that you can pick from, like with other groups. So in other groups, you can say, oh, well, these are the packages we offer, and we have Aetna, Blue Cross, Health New England, Tufts, for instance. And I might pick Tufts, and Salem might pick Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Right.
But that's not how this trust is operated. And so therefore, we all have the same plan. So that's sort of kind of the hiccup, is that we all have the same plan, we're all gonna have the same plan, and the concern is that if we open that up to negotiations and everyone doesn't say, okay, then by the strongest voice, we might have to do something else. And I just think that that's a bad plan for the city, and it's a bad plan for the employees.
By something else, I think I understand. If we keep it the same, and it's a 150E negotiation, if one of our bargaining units decides they don't like the plan that's presented to them, the new design changes, you would have to offer them or negotiate some other entity other than Hampshire Trust, because Hampshire Trust is not going to change the plan design for Easthampton.
Correct.
Because it has to be the same for all 69 communities. That's the nature of the trust.
Correct.
That's very, okay, that enlightens me. So in other words, either we adopt this so that plan design changes are adopted by all the negotiating units, or we leave the Hampshire Trust because one of the units doesn't like the plan design change.
It's a possibility. I mean, I wouldn't say that they would do that. It's up the process too. There's an accelerated process with 21 and 22 in order to get to resolution and not hold it up in court over,
Okay.
one group saying, well, we must have this,
I
whatever
didn't.
that might be.
My only other thing to ask is, this doesn't negate the possibility of salary negotiation to mitigate plan design changes which cost some units' members more money. They can still negotiate that.
Salary negotiations are opened at the time of collective bargaining, and
Contracts.
whatever they do, they do.
That's separate from healthcare.
Yes.
Okay. Peg, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No worries. So earlier we said that the retirees have a different plan.
So they have the same plan design. They're offered 50-50 at retirement, as will all of us active members be offered in retirement should we choose to retire from the city of Easthampton. Also, the retirees, some are part of these HMO and PPO plans where they would be subject to plan design. Most in the city of Easthampton are under MedX. MedX is not subject to this plan design, and it is not part of this change that is happening right now. But there are some, if you retire before the age of 65, for instance, you would still be on the HMO until you reach 65. And then there are some members who've been employed with the city so long that they were prior to requiring us to take Medicare, and therefore they are not eligible for the Medicare, and then the Medicare supplement MedX, which is what we offer for Blue Cross Blue Shield.
So there's a subset of people who would be completely unimpacted by this?
A large group of the retirees, yes.
Okay, so that's good. You talked a little bit about today the city pays 75%, the employees pay 25%. Is there a cap to that? Like, is there some predictability to that so that I, as an employee, don't suddenly get hit with half of it next year? Like, is there some graduated way that changes?
I think would be part of the negotiation. This is negotiation on plan design,
okay,
as a part of the CBA. So I don't believe, okay, just double checking, that we can change the percentage contribution at this point.
So the city can't change that unilaterally?
No, and I don't believe you can ever make it below 50, like the 50-50 match, but I mean, I think we'd be, I know that, you know, different units have done different things with the percentage of, and maybe we were 80-20 once, and now we're 75-25. I know that some communities had did that when huge increases came, before this type of plan design options were offered by insurance companies.
I
Okay.
think, and then I'll be done.
No, fine.
I think what would be helpful for me, and perhaps others, is visual representations of what things cost today, what is in the as-is today plan
So Joe has
versus
got that,
the, okay.
and I believe it's part of the packet
Okay.
that you have in front of you, is the, what they were and what is being proposed currently in front of the trust. And in comparison to several other.
We didn't get
groups-
those.
You have it?
We'll get it, we'll get it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because
we'll get to it.
I think it's important to have a very distilled look at the before and the after with numbers, charts, tables, and graphs, because I think just narratives like this, things can get misinterpreted, and I think if we have pretty pictures, that would really
Well,
be.
I was
can
gonna
get
ask for
some
that
pretty
anyway.
pictures that there's just a chart right now, that was provided by the
Where was that?
trust as
That was
to,
at the council meeting.
what
A couple weeks ago
was,
when he
what
presented
is
to
being
us.
proposed
Oh, okay.
in comparison to other,
Okay.
similar design groups.
Okay, because for me, it's really hard to evaluate this without numbers, the before and after, so, okay, that's all I have.
Salem.
Yep. So it sounds like there's some changes coming down the line potentially from the trust.
Pretty sure, yeah.
And so the concern, I'm simplifying this I need it simple.
Yep.
So the concern is that when those come down, we can't have variation within that menu for our employees.
We cannot.
And the concern is that potentially one of the bargaining units would balk at some of those changes and hold it up for everybody else.
That's the concern, yes.
Okay. And did I hear you say something about a mitigation fund that would offset some of the potential changes that are in the menu?
Right, so 25% of the savings that the city experiences from a plan design change, because obviously a premium would be less expensive if it has a higher copay built into it versus a plan that has a lower copay built into it. So you have to look at, you know, what would it cost if it was left alone versus what it would cost if we make the plan design changes.
So for example, if I had outpatient surgery and the copay for that was $50 and it went up to $200, then I could potentially get reimbursement from the city to make up the difference. Is that kind of what it would look?
So that's a possibility, that's one way to distribute the mitigation funds, but that's not, that is what would be debated with the group and the municipality after the plan design went into effect. So that's one method
Okay.
of doing that. There are other methods, like, you know, we could do a premium holiday, but and it's just really more, I think, what is palatable to the
Okay.
unions at that point.
So, but the bargaining units would have an opportunity to have a say on that?
As the one collective group under 21 and 22.
And everybody's represented in that one collective group?
So as I understand it, the paid plan employees are not represented, but they would experience the benefit of whatever was negotiated by the represented groups.
Okay, and I think maybe this was said last time, but do the bargaining units get to elect their own person who represents them in that situation?
I don't know.
We'll get to that. I have questions on that. so-
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get a
No, I agree.
picture here.
I have.
I'm just not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll bring up Cook representative. I wanted to bring up Joe Shea from Hampshire Trust next, unless we have more questions for the mayor or Melissa, or the mayor wants to say anything else.
No, I would, just to answer Councilor Derby's question, I was going to bring up the consultant who has.
Well, I have questions for her too, but I thought I'd try with Joe first.
I am set.
Okay.
Are we done with the presentation? Should I put the lights back on?
Yep, I can put that.
So, Mr. Shea from the Hampshire Trust.
And I would just say that, again, the PDF with the related articles that you asked for,
Mhm.
the last time the news articles around
Mhm.
trust changes are in this packet, and they're available electronically as well.
This packet only has the PDFs. I don't, or the, oh, here it is.
This one. yeah.
This one, I'm sorry, it was here, I didn't even see it. All right, thank you.
This is the one that was.
This is the one you handed out the last
Yes,
time?
but,
Thanks.
Hey Dan,
Yeah?
I'm gonna have to go in a minute. Is it possible that you can ask the ECAT to email us the video, all the
Sure.
counselors?
I'll try.
Okay.
Okay, that'd be great. I don't see why, I never tried that. Is that possible?
Yeah, should be.
Okay, good.
We got some connections. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Take care of it.
Thank you.
Well, she was very nice to get the video
Yeah.
on. Mr. Shea, you probably want to say a few things. I have some questions as well, so go ahead and present what you'd like to present.
Well, again,
If you
I
can
handed out-
enumerate on what Melissa was saying.
Okay, sure.
And if you could make it for the layperson like me,
I
it gets
will.
really complicated
I will
sometimes.
certainly try. From the trust perspective, again, just giving you a little history on the benefit changes. About 3 years ago, the trust started having the discussions around benefit changes, primarily because we were in the middle of a period where our claims started deteriorating and our rates started increasing. A number of the units asked what can be done to sort of tamper down any benefit increase and also keep a reserve in place. And basically, there's very little that can be done. One of the levers you can use are changing some of the benefits. Otherwise, it's premium that needs to support the claims that are being paid. So again, those discussions started 3 years ago with the Insurance Advisory Committee of the Trust. And as the meetings went on, it was made clear that the members of the trust did not want a medical plan that had a deductible like a $500 individual deductible or a $1,000 family plan deductible. They seemed more comfortable with a co-pay arrangement. I had also proposed a deductible, at least on the pharmaceuticals, because our pharmaceutical expenses had more than doubled in a 5-year time period. So again, over this 3-year time period, there was a lot of discussion going back and forth on what it would look like. Last year, we basically landed on a plan of what those benefit changes would look like. That we were looking to implement those in July 1st of 2018. We put that on hold in April of 2018, just primarily because we have been asking for a year plus that all the units adopt 21-22. Based on legal counsel, we were told that that was the quickest and easiest way for a municipality to make health insurance benefit changes was, again, adopting 21 and 22. Last spring, again, it was made known to us that some units did not adopt it. Some units did adopt 21-22, but they may not have followed the letter of the law within 21 and 22, giving notification to unions. So again, we pulled the recommended benefit increases and said that we would look at it again in the new insurance year. And again, we're in the new insurance year. So during the fall of 2018 and into all the way until this morning's meeting, we had the discussions around what are the benefit changes going to look like. We did meet with a number of union representatives in June and July of this year.
Our unions, or?
You had some union membership at those meetings.
Okay.
They again voiced the concern wanting to have a say in what the benefit changes would look like. We ended up taking a look at some of these benefit changes that we proposed for last year. And in the sheet that you have in front of us, or in front of you, on the far right-hand column are the actual benefit changes that would be implemented for July 1st of 2019. And we did adjust three of the co-pays downward. If you look at the arrows on the far right side, those are the 3 co-payments that we did adjust downward, based on some of the conversations that we had within the Executive Committee and the Insurance Advisory Committee. And I'm going to bounce on this page a little bit. If you go to the far left, you're going to see the trust column that's shaded on the left-hand side. Those are our current co-pays. Right now, we have a $15 and $20 copay for HMO and PPO visit, a $75 copay for an emergency room visit. Other than that, there are no copays for any medical. So if you're hospitalized, it's a 0 copay. If you have outpatient surgery, it's 0. If you have MRIs, it's 0. The only other copay would be on pharmaceuticals.
But then it's going up 150, 250 for
Correct.
hospital.
So then when you
You're
go back-
proposing that for this year.
Correct. The proposal for this year is again on the far right-hand side, where we are adding in copays for specialist visits, moving that to $35. We originally proposed $40. ER visit going from 75 to 100, imaging from 0 to 100, outpatient surgery from 0 to 150. We originally proposed 250. Hospital copay from 0 to 250. We originally proposed a $500 copay. We did not change the proposal from last year to this year on the pharmaceutical copay and deductible plan. The executive committee did meet this morning, and they did vote for a recommendation to the insurance advisory committee meeting for next week for the proposed changes that you see on the right-hand column. And there was also recommended that there would be no premium increase. So again, premium would remain the same as this year, with the only change being the benefit changes that you see on the right-hand column.
Some of the copays.
Yes.
Okay. So I have some questions, if you allow me. One of the things that was brought up to me was the debacle that happened to the Amherst Trust. But we have a very healthy trust fiscally. We have a surplus.
Yes, we do.
And it's pretty good right now.
Yes.
But your concern, if I'm hearing about all this, is that if we
the
don't
concern
make plan changes
Right.
and things like that over the years, we could end up like Amherst. How did Amherst fall apart? What happened there?
Basically, if you read the one article I did provide,
Oh, it's in here?
About 4 years ago, July 1st, I believe it's noted in the article, July 1st, 2014. They were a very healthy trust. They had almost an $8 million reserve. When you look at that trust to our trust, they were about 20-25% of our size, so they were much smaller. But to have almost an $8 million reserve, they actually were in better financial shape than we were just 4.5 years ago. Basically, their claims started deteriorating, and they chose to do nothing. They didn't raise their premiums. They didn't make any benefit changes. So 2015, 2016, 2017, their claims continued to deteriorate, and they still chose to do nothing. Their insurance advisory.
When you say deteriorate, you mean the cost went
Well,
up?
claims went up.
Went up a lot, so.
Yes, went up a lot.
Okay.
And so they kept dipping into their reserve account. So then it was July of 2017, they had a rate increase. 3 months later, October of 2017, they had a second rate increase. February 1st of 2018, they had a third rate increase. But by then they had determined the ship had sunk, that they ran out of money, basically. They approached the trust about joining the trust. We gave them a proposal, not actually having them in a trust, but that we would manage them and try to nurse them back to health. But at one point in time, they just were too scared to be in the self-insured world because they were set up identical to our trust. They were a self-insured trust of Amherst, Pelham, and the regional school district. So bottom line is, everybody ignored the financials, everybody ignored the warning signs for 3+ years of their claim experience, and choosing to do nothing. And we've looked at a number of other, or we've been compared to a number of other joint purchase groups throughout the state, and they have reserves, but they're woefully inadequate reserves. They're literally short of one bad claim year away from being another Amherst Pelham. So again, the Hampshire Trust is still very, very well reserved. It's managed on I think a very proactive basis. The executive committee meets on a monthly basis. The IAC meets on a quarterly basis. There's, I guess, good communication flow back and forth between all the members.
Have you seen, using your term, a deterioration in your reserves because claims have gone up the last few years?
Yes.
And obviously hospital costs, RX costs have gone up.
The high point of our reserve was approximately $27 million. By June 30th, 2017, had reduced down to about $18 million.
We lost $9 million in 1 year?
No, in a 3-year time period.
3 years?
Yes. And that's where the time period when we started having these discussions, because people started getting nervous. We weren't raising our rates significantly because we did say we were going to use the reserves to soften any rate increases. But again, people started getting nervous at the fact that we were chewing through the reserve. We were seeing rate increases, and the biggest concern with a number of communities was how were they going to support, or how were they going to come up with new revenue to pay for increasing premiums.
I have a couple more before I ask the other members of the Finance Committee. Oh, by the way, is this out today? Does
Yes,
the
that's
bargaining
out.
units Do you guys have this?
No, I mean, it was just voted today.
All
That
right.
was by the executive
It-
committee. The insurance advisory committee meets next Wednesday morning, and that's where the final.
The Insurance Advisory Committee in East Hampton?
No, insurance advisory committee of the trust.
Oh, I see. So it's not
69
really
units.
ready to be distributed as a final document yet?
Correct. This is the
This-
recommendation. from the
Recommendation,
trust.
but not final?
Correct.
Okay. The other, next question. How many of the 69 towns are in 21 and 22 now?
That I'm not sure of. We, again, asked all of the units over the last 2 years to adopt it. We know a lot of them did. A number of units indicated that they did not need to. So again, we're basically.
They did not need to because they didn't have
Because they did not have any bargaining groups within the town. We have a number of small towns.
small towns.
That don't have any bargaining.
Is East Hampton the largest community?
Actually, you're one of three. You're all about the same. South Hadley, who just adopted 21-22 last night, Melchertown, and East Hampton. You are the top three. You're at about 11% ownership of the trust.
Okay. That's all, is 75-25 is what we have. Is that common, or is it, do you know what that?
We've done a survey every couple of years. Again, we have 3 or 4 groups that are 50-50 split. There's only 1 or 2 that are in that 80-20 range. If you were to blend all 69 units, it's probably more in the 70-30 range. But the most predominant split is a 75-25.
And that's negotiated within the city and the bargaining units in the city. You don't make that decision.
Correct. The trust does not care what the.
You just want your premium. You don't
Right,
care who gives it to you.
We bill out at 100%, and you know whether it's 70-30, 75-25, the trust, that we don't get involved with that.
Bill, do you have any questions?
You said in the 3 years going into 2017, the trust lost $9 million out of their reserve. 2018, did we lose another $3 million?
No, actually, the actuaries at Blue Cross Blue Shield were expecting a loss. We actually started stabilizing over the last 15 months. Our claims have actually stabilized. Our investment account had done very well up until the last 3 months. The last 3 months, the financial markets have done a little rocking and rolling, and has impacted our finances. The investment.
Tell me
account-
you're not all in the stock market.
No.
Thank you.
No. So we do have some money in the stock market.
So we did stabilize the
Yes,
last
so
year
claims-
without
claims
any
have stabilized
adjustments.
over the last 15 months, give or take.
Thank you.
Anything else, Bill?
No, that's good.
Joe?
Yeah, I have a quick question. I mean, I completely understand your perspective, what you do. I know other communities would love to be in the Hampshire Trust. I guess I'm curious, why do you want East Hampton to adopt 21-22? Because to me, 21-22 is about collective bargaining and how to negotiate. So I don't understand the connection between you and your desire to have a community adopt 21-22.
Well, part of it is just advice from council, where again, the trust is made up of 69 units, and the trust can make benefit changes. But again, there's 69 owners of the trust, and state law says you have to either negotiate or adopt 21 or 22. Because let's say again, if we move forward to making these benefit changes, if the units that have not adopted 21, 22, going back to one of the questions, is the trust going to kick you out? The answer is, I guess not, or probably not. We're not going to sit there saying you have to get out, but what are you going to do? Because the trust is going to move forward with these benefit changes. And do you have enough time to negotiate with your 6, 7, 8, 9 units or union groups in time between now and July 1st when these benefit changes take place, where 21 to 22 is a mechanism that, as has already been mentioned, speeds up the process.
Okay.
Peg, Joe, any more?
No, I don't think so.
Peg, do you have anything?
Yep, so, just so I understand these numbers, the left-hand side is all of the East Hampton members,
Yes.
collective bargaining,
All
everybody.
East Hampton and all the other 68 units.
So everybody has.
Everybody has the
Zero
exact same
medical,
plan.
15, 20 office visit,
Yes.
yada, yada, yada. Okay, then everybody will get, so you offer one plan design.
One plan and one plan only.
So 69 units all get the same thing?
Correct.
Okay.
And as was mentioned earlier, you being already union could not sit there and come back to the trust and say, okay, we want to put just the union membership
Right.
into our plan, and the non-union memberships, we're gonna go out to Aetna.
Yep.
The trust agreement specifically says that for health insurance, you are to offer our plan and our plan only.
Okay. So when I look at left hand, right hand, and the changes, I'm confused why you have down arrows, because to
Well-
me it's up.
Well, no,
So
it's down arrow from what was proposed in July 1st of 2000.
Yeah, he said 500 was proposed for something, and then.
Where again, the
okay.
35, the arrow next to 35, we originally were asking for a $40 copay.
Okay.
The 150
Probably would have been good to put a little
Oh, yeah,
column
that
next
was
to
well.
that.
Yeah.
The columns start getting a little bunched.
Because I was thinking that's the way it was, because I'm
Right.
like, I don't see the goodness in that.
So again, so changes were made since last July.
Okay, so so we don't look at the Easthampton claims experience, we look at the 69
Correct.
member unit
Correct.
claim
We
experience.
bill out on an individual town level, but when we get the claim experience back from Blue Cross on a monthly basis,
Yep.
Blue Cross looks at the trust as one unit.
Okay.
It's not as 69 units. We don't do financials for 69 units, so I could not tell you today how your experience has run for the last 12 months.
But
You
Blue
can't tell
Cross
us
it.
what the claim.
No, Blue Cross cannot, because Blue Cross still views the trust as one entity. One entity.
So there's
only.
no way to differentiate between 65 really sick units
Correct.
and
Except for
Easthampton's really healthy.
There
and-
is an exception. You actually did that. Units can ask for the trust to pull their claim data.
Okay,
It's a timely process, but we actually.
We did that once, I remember
Right.
that.
Actually, we've done it a couple times,
Okay.
as most recently as either last year or 2 years ago. And at that point in time, I can tell you, you were not in one of the healthy groups. I'll leave it at that. Because
what do you say?
we have a number of groups that are in the middle of that process right
Okay.
now, where we've extracted the data. It takes a little while because we have to build
Yep.
the file
Yep.
to give to Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Okay,
They
s-
extract 24 months worth of data. We'll return that to the unit, and the unit then goes out and puts their business out today.
Okay.
And,
You have anything else?
So, I do. So, of course I do. So, and you know, I'm sure there's a lot of lead up to this. It's a long runway to get here. Was there discussion about moving the levers a little bit to keep the copays lower and/or at zero, but calibrate the premium up a little bit? Was there any appetite? Like, how did you move the levers to arrive at?
well, again,
Yes.
that whole discussion literally started 3 years ago, because that's when we started seeing these rate increases.
Okay.
And a number of units said, what can be done
To stabilize.
to stabilize it?
Okay.
And that's when I did say to them, there's only a couple levers you can tweak the premium,
Right.
i.e. keep raising it, but the municipalities didn't really have an appetite for that, just because it's new revenue that needs to be found to cover the ever increasing premium. So I told them the only other levers are tweaking the benefits. And so again, over that 3-year time period, we kept saying, okay, what levers can we tweak? Which co-pays would we like to try to change?
So when
And that is what we ended up with on the right-hand side. And we did, again, we did tweak it further over the last 6 months, because we tweaked 3 of the co-payments down even further than what we had proposed last year.
Okay. So when I look at this, kind of where we've landed is substantially similar to where everybody else is now. The Westfield
No,
Berkshire Health Group.
no, the biggest thing is every single one of the other 4 groups that you see there all have medical deductibles. We still are at 0.
Okay. Okay.
And a number of them, GIC specifically, all have gone to tiering, or GIC has gone to tiering. I've seen a couple other groups that have gone to tiering of hospitals and doctors, meaning that depending on the doctor you go to or the hospital you go to, you have a deductible at one level at one hospital, and it goes up higher if you're going to a more expensive doctor or hospital. And again, that was made clear 3 years ago. They did not want a overall health deductible. So we're still at 0, where everybody else does have a medical deductible in place.
Anything else,
And
Bill?
that's one of the other levers that we could have used by putting in an overall medical deductible, but again, the units said they did not want to see that, because they felt too much like the GIC like that.
Okay. No, I'm set.
So can you come back next week? Because I want to give equal time to the bargaining units and the insurance advisory group here.
6 on Wednesday?
Yeah.
Sure.
Can I have the representative, I forget your name, from Cook? I have one quick question for you, and then I want to take 5 minutes, and all of the bargaining units, you guys are all going to get time? Is that okay, Jason? Do you have time to be here?
Yes, sir.
My big question for you is, I'm reading 21 and 22, that's pretty complicated. Thank God there's people like you that can explain it to the cities and towns. Why did they choose, what bothers me about the whole thing, a little bit, and I remember the discussion in 2012, why 30 days for the negotiation? Why, and that can't be changed because that's the law if I'm reading it. I'm just wondering, because when I read that, it means, you know, once you decide what the cost savings are, I understand this, the mitigation of how that's gonna be distributed, the 25% Melissa was getting, you only have 30 days to decide that. Why?
Well, first of all, I can't speak for the state and for.
Thank God.
For the legislators who passed it. I also want to say I'm having an issue with my vocal cords, so if my voice cracks, I apologize.
That's okay.
I can't, as I said, I can't speak for those who passed the statute and the regulations. However, I've had a lot of experience with communities who have adopted 21 through 23, as a matter of fact, and across the state, all of those communities with their PEC, the Public Employee Committee, they've all come to an agreement within the 30-day period, except for maybe 2 or 3 communities who ended up having to go to the state panel.
State panel is like arbitration.
Correct, because they couldn't come to an agreement within those 30 days.
So the 30 days is working?
It has worked, correct.
Okay. Well, that's all I have. Does anybody else have anything for the Cook representative? You're basically advising the city on how to adopt 21 and 22 and what the ramifications are. That's your job?
And also working
for-
through the process if
Okay.
it's adopted.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
I'd like to take
Can I
5 minutes.
can I ask-
Oh, oh, sorry. We have one question for you. Sorry, Joe.
Yeah, so I'm trying, collective bargaining is important to me, so if, the bargaining will still be present, but I guess is there one way to look at it, is that right now, as it exists, they bargain independently with fire, police, DPW, whereas they would be looking more at a collective bargaining where this bargaining team is made up of representatives of each of those other unions. Is that how that bargaining is usually
Yes,
created?
so under this process, there's a representative from each collective bargaining unit on the Public Employee Committee, as well as a retiree representative, and it's a weighted vote. So, and that weighted vote is based on the number of eligible members per bargaining group. The retirees get an automatic 10% of the weighted vote, and the rest of it is apportioned based on those numbers. You need a majority vote, 50% basically, to pass a PEC agreement.
And again, I guess you just alluded to it, if there was a disagreement, then the city and that collective bargaining now, the next thing would be some kind of state panel.
Correct.
Do you happen to know right now if a collective bargaining unit didn't agree with the administration? Do they just wait until someone wins, or does that step exist now as well?
So again, under this process, to approve a PEC agreement and to come to an agreement between the PEC and the city, there has to be a 50% of the weighted vote voting to accept that agreement. So potentially there could be a unit that does not vote yes, but as long as you have the 50%, that carries.
All right. Weighted vote, which means a unit that has so many members gets a different weight than another unit that has less members.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Bill, go.
Who chooses the members of the committee? So there's,
Each collective bargaining unit.
they get to choose their
can
own
choose
member
their own.
to
Yeah.
participate?
And the State Retiree Association chooses the retiree representative.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys need a break? I can continue, but I wanted to give time for bathroom breaks.
I'm good.
Well, we'll continue then. I'd like to call up, Jason, are you on the Insurance Advisory Committee?
I am.
I'd like to bring you up because I wanted to talk about that first. If you want to make a statement, go ahead, but then I have some questions.
I just don't know where to start.
Well, you have to start someplace.
We'll make a little bit of a statement here. starting in 1990, we had agreements. I only have 2 copies. All the collective bargaining agreements, all the collective bargaining groups got together. We made an agreement all at one time, all signed the paper, and it was on health insurance. And then in 1999, we did it again. We have an exceptional insurance advisory board that works really well. We've always looked out for the best interest of not only the employees, but the city. We found the trust gives us the best insurance at the lowest cost, and we've always come to a compromise with the city. So there were statements made that we can't all bargain together. It's right there in front of you. It happened 2 other times, all the unions, all together, no problems. Another thing that has been said was that this most recent time, we were at an impasse. I don't know if any of you have ever done any kind of bargaining. We were given one proposal, the Insurance Advisory Board. The mayor gave it to the Insurance Advisory Board to bargain with all the units. That was the intent. We sent one counter proposal and we heard nothing. Not one thing. That is not any type of negotiation that I have ever experienced in my life. You don't do that. There was no, this is the only offer. There was no, take this or leave this. There was, hey, here's a proposal. Because we were going to try to come to an agreement. Just like we always have in the past. Now there's been plan design changes. When you increase the cost for a medication, for a copay, that's a plan design change, right? So we've had plan design changes. And the unions have agreed to it in the Insurance Advisory Board, and then it's implemented. It's the way it's been done all along. Now, the problem with the adoption of 21 and 22 is that it gives you 30 days, which isn't long enough to look at any type of plan. And then it can be implemented. And the employees would see 25% of the savings the first year, and then never again. It takes away all the, yes, it's only a one-time thing the first year that no one else decided to mention, but I'm going to mention it right now. It's a one-time thing. And then they get to do whatever they want. This is pulling all of our collective bargaining rights away. And I said it was premature the other day. And what I say is true. Because this, and you can see it on the paper that Joe Shea gave you, it doesn't go into effect till July 1st. So we had plenty of time to come to an agreement before we would ever have to adopt this if the city felt it so necessary to do so. I guess part of this, the trust used to be run by John Lewis. And we had a bunch of 0 years, and everyone else in the state was going about 60%. We benefited a ton, right? And on their mission statement for the trust, it says for the employers and the employees of the employers that they're supposed to look out for. Now this year, there's some cost shifting, and it's going to go off of the employees' benefits, 5% of it. Okay, but we understand that, hey, sometimes the city pays, and sometimes we have to do it. We don't like it. We don't like to see the benefits. If your kid breaks their arm and has to go to physical therapy, it could cost you $2,000 out of pocket. I think nobody likes to see that, but we understand, and Joe's a little different than John, and than John Lewis was, and I feel that Joe, it's fair to say that he represents more the city side than the employee side, right? And he said it himself that
No, I represent the trust.
right. So, but in whatever way you want to put that, this 5% is coming out of the employee benefits. Now, we understand that, like I said, sometimes that happens. We want a chance to negotiate it. We want a chance to talk about it. And this Insurance Advisory Board, from 1990 until now, 28 years, we haven't had a problem. We've always come to an agreement. So give us that chance now. And somebody brought back 2013 when Mayor Kosnick wanted to take us and adopt 21 and 22. He wanted to pull us out of the trust. And he could pull us out of the trust. We have no say in anything with that. And maybe this administration doesn't want to pull us out of the trust. Maybe they do just want to protect them. But when Mayor LaChapelle's gone, or whatever happens, and somebody else steps in, with that law adopted under this city, they can do whatever they want. And I don't think they always understand when people have done it for 28 years, and they come in for a 2-year term, or a 3-year term, or 4 years, or whatever it is. I know they're just 2-year terms, but you know, if they're here for 4 years, or whatever it is, they might not have the best understanding as the people that have been doing it. I've been doing it for 12 years, and there's been people on there, like Mr. Dunham, for quite a bit longer. So, I guess that's all
I have some questions.
I have answers, hopefully.
The Insurance Advisory Committee, as it works now, when you get the 32B insurance request from the city, there may be premium increases or there may be plan design changes. Is it a consensus, okay, we're going to accept this or not? If you don't accept it, what happens? Because if I read this correctly, there's 69 towns, cities and towns. If you don't, the city has to accept what that trust brings forward. You don't have any choice. The city doesn't have any choice. You don't have any choice on the plan design. You could argue with them, and maybe they'll make changes based on some of the things you talked about, what's happening. So what happens, number one, what happens when you get this if one of the bargaining units says, I don't like this, we're not going to do it? Or is it always consensus? You've said you've had these things in the past. I'm just curious. How has it happened if people don't agree? I mean, it doesn't sound like we've had major changes since the trust has been involved, but.
So, well, we've been in the trust for, I don't know, how many years has it been? Somebody tell me quick. Is it over since 1999?
Was the mayor at the time.
Yeah, so we've been in for a very long time with the trust. And we know that if we don't like the plan design changes, we go and we talk to them and we lobby the people that sit on the board there. But we understand that we have no say. So as unions, we wanted to be in the trust and we fought to be in the trust. And we understand, we have a full understanding that when the trust makes plan design changes, we don't have a choice in that. You get one plan. We all know that, and we've always agreed on it. We know that there's nothing. What could we do? We'd say no, and then what? The city's going to go look for some other plan they're going to give you that low rate the first year, and then they're going to crush us.
Yeah, I remember that.
Financial,
yeah.
We'll have to be in a huge, financial mess with it. So we understand that.
So if there's increases to the membership, all the employees in the plan design, or premiums in the future, and you have to accept them, the mitigation that might occur, you still have. Well, number one, you want to bargain it, but what I'm hearing here is that the only thing you can do, if you reject the plan, you basically can't reject the plan. If you reject the plan, you have to leave the Hampshire Trust.
Right, we can't reject the plan, exactly.
Okay, so the negotiation then turns to bargaining at the salary level with the mayor, the school committee, whoever bargains for the teachers, et cetera. Because there you can say, well, our plan and our health care went up. We'd like to try and get a little more salary to compensate for that. That's still there.
Yeah.
Right. But right now, I've heard that some bargaining units are able to do that. And what I'm hearing from the mayor is the pay plan employees and retirees, they can't bargain for more salary or anything like that. They get what they get because they don't have a union. So what I'm hearing is she's trying to make that even, but I'm also hearing you about 21 and 22. I'm just telling you what's in my head now.
Sure.
And I'm very confused, but I'm trying.
We have a retiree that sits on the insurance advisory board,
Right.
and they actually have as much vote as every other person in that thing. In that.
Well, but what I'm saying is they don't have the mitigation of salary that you could do beyond health care. You can go whenever your contract comes up. Last 2 years, we've had premium increases. We'd like to, et cetera.
Well, I believe that they could increase the COLA if they wanted to. I mean, they don't have a bargaining unit, but it is decided every year what the COLA is. I think that Mr. Dunham would be able to expand on that more.
Okay. Jason, that's all I have. I'll let you come in a minute, ma'am. Bill, Joe, for Jason on this, or Peg? Nothing?
I guess my question is if everything's locked in, this is the plan, that's it. What do you negotiate for? What collective bargaining, like what is the panel
So
actually?
on our, on what.
The Insurance Advisory
The
Board.
Insurance
Correct.
Advisory Board. So when things come up, we will go and research them. Like they had Altus Dental came in, and the previous mayor wanted us to look at Altus Dental, and they said that they were a lot cheaper. So we did a bunch of research on it and got a bunch of information, and then came back with a proposal. It did take us 6 weeks to actually be very accurate. The mayor at the time wanted it done, and he was very angry because it took us 6 weeks. It took us 60 days, not 30. And we had a complete package with all the information on it. And if the city would have gone to that, it would have ended up costing them a lot of money. And there was a bunch of lies, and we saw through it all. They were saying that they got group discounts, and they got all this other stuff that they couldn't get through the current dental plan. And we went to, I don't even know, 10 different dentist office, orthodontist office, and we had statements and everything else saying that it was made up. Like they don't give any discounts to Altus Dental and all this other stuff. It was crazy that they would do that.
So there's nothing in the current, I'm sorry, Bill, I
That's
shouldn't have
good.
interrupted you,
That's
but
fine.
each collective bargaining unit has certain language in their contracts about healthcare.
We
There's
did.
nothing to say that they can't go back to the city and say, we don't like this. We're not gonna approve it.
No, we have to accept whatever plan is there.
Because of these agreements you just put it through?
Well, those agreements there, just it shows you there's a signature from every single bargaining unit on there, and we.
Well, my point is, if, sorry, the teachers have a lot of people. If they want to try and get a different healthcare plan, they can, if they wanted to. Leave the trust, if they wanted to.
Well, they
No.
can't. They cannot.
You can't
We can't
because
leave
of the
the trust.
collective, I'm just curious,
We
no?
can't leave the trust, and we can't bargain the plan design
Okay,
because we're in the trust.
all right.
Now,
Okay.
when the teachers have language in there, we have language that says that we stay in Blue Cross and Blue Shield.
And
Now,
they're-
if we left the trust, we understand that. We got that in there because previous mayor was trying to pull us out of the trust. He was trying to do everything he could. So we put that language in there to protect us, and so they wouldn't be able to pull us out of the trust because he couldn't go to another Blue Cross plan to get the same rate that he was getting at the trust.
Okay, got it. Anything, sorry, Bill, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I'm good.
Joe?
So right now, pre-21-22, post-21-22, you still can't alter the plan. It comes from the trust, and this is
Right.
basically what we're offering. There may be some salary mitigation
Right.
to offset changes. So in some respects, that part, because what I'm thinking on some levels, what 21 and 22 would force you to do this. It would force the unions to get together and say, we have to work together and come up with an agreement on insurance to present to the city versus the city going to each one individual.
Well, as you see, we already do that, and we're not forced at all. But with the 21 and 22, what it would do is it gives you 30 days.
Right.
If you don't do it, they implement it anyways. And then the savings that they get, there has to be at least a 5% savings for them to make a plan design change. If there is a 5% savings, the employee group gets 25% of that 5% savings. And we get to negotiate whether we put it in a general fund for the increased or the loss of benefits to compensate for people that use it, or you want a holiday. Those are the two things you can really negotiate. That's it. The 25% for the first year. And then you never see that savings again. It takes away all of our collective bargaining rights. The adoption. A mayor could come in and propose that they get pulled out of the trust and go, hey, Maya gave us this great rate. I think that's what we should do. That's what Northampton did. They went through 4 different insurance companies before they ever found somebody, and their premiums are through the roof. And you think, I don't know if the trust take Northampton now?
No, they're in the GIC.
Yeah, they're under the GIC because of their claims.
Yeah, and so they just kept going and switching because they thought they got a better deal. And like I said, somebody comes in new, they think it's a great idea, you already have 21 and 22. They don't need to come back and ask you guys anything. They just go over, they pull us out of the trust, and then put it wherever you want. And we've been doing this for 28 years, and we know, hey, whoa, slow down, collect the tax.
Okay. Anything else, Joe?
No, that's okay.
Peg?
So really if I am reading you correctly, the major blocking point here is that today things are pretty stable, you're in the trust, you know the plan that you're gonna get generally. But the differentiator with 21, 22 is now you could be pulled out of the trust unbeknownst, without your consent, apparently. And they could go and contract with Aetna at a completely different rate, separate from the trust, that you don't get a say in staying in the trust or leaving the trust determination, and you guys are just the recipients of whatever that is. And is that distilling it down, is that the crux of the difference? You have no say, you have no bargaining power.
They can pick the carrier and the plan design or whatever they want. They could put you to a $2,000 deductible if they wanted to. You get 25% the first year, and then that's it. And then you're paying $2,000 out of your pocket every single time. I'm sure this mayor's not going to do that, and that's not her intent. But when you adopt the law, anyone that comes into her seat from this point forward has all of those rights.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Can I ask Nicole, is that true?
So that.
Actually, I could ask the Cook representative, but I want to make sure that what Jason just said, that's pretty important. A future mayor can decide to get us out of the trust because, oh, somebody gave them a plan that says, what, Chief?
We have that ability to do it now. So being in the trust or not, without or with 21 and 22, we can start the process to move out of the trust. I certainly have no intention of doing that, but yeah, I mean, the adoption of 21 and 22 is another decision and process than trust. I mean, I could say
However,
here,
the bargaining
I'm going to
units,
start the process. Yeah.
if you tried to do that, the bargaining units have a say now.
Absolutely, but
But
I'm
if
just
we
saying
adopt 21
that-
and 22, they don't have a say.
That's right. They have.
Is that not, well, Melissa wants to say something.
So I hope that, Susan will correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that as long as the plan design is the same as this being currently offered, and there's not change to the collective bargaining agreement, meaning their benefits are unchanged, we could go within the rules of the collective bargaining. So the fire department has Blue Cross Blue Shield in their contract. So if we went to Blue Cross Blue Shield direct and we could offer the same package that we currently have, that doesn't prohibit us from getting out of Blue Cross Blue Shield, other than the fact that out of the trust and going with Blue Cross Blue Shield directly with the same co-pays that we have today, except for that it would be cost prohibitive, and then there's also the expense of leaving the trust because you pay tailings on claims that are coming in for, is it 3 or 6 months?
If you were to leave the trust,
Yeah.
it's 18 months.
18 months, could be a lot.
So, but the question is, the city with 21 and 22 could do that if they thought they were getting a better deal with Blue Cross and Blue Shield for the future.
But I
Right now, I'm with 21 and 22. When it's
I
adopted,
think we can do it right now, is what I'm saying.
well, I think the collective bargaining units probably will say that they can probably negotiate that.
So the issue of whether you can leave the trust or not is no different under 21 through 22 as it is under 150E. Sections 21 through 22 is strictly to talk about plan design. That's it. It's not to talk about contributions. It's not to talk about carrier. It's not to talk about the trust or not the
23
trust.
is carriers.
23 is the GIC.
Okay.
So 21 through 22 is strictly to deal with plan design issues.
Jason, are you understanding it the same way? Because I think there's some disagreement between you guys, and I'm very layman on this, so what I'm hearing you say is 21 and 22 doesn't change the fact that you could change today. If the bargaining unit, if what Melissa said, if Blue Cross, let's say it's Blue Cross and Blue Shield, Fire Department, if they decide to go Blue Cross and Blue Shield because it's a plan that matches what is matched now, it doesn't break the collective bargaining agreement. However, it could cost a great deal, which is why they won't do it, because the trust has all these agreements in place. But they could do it today. And if they tried to do it in the future, it's the same thing. You would have to match whatever is in the bargaining agreements. Even with 21 and 22, it doesn't take away
fire department's Blue Cross and Blue Shield language, they would still have to do that. Am I reading that right?
So two things. Number one, I am not privy to your collective bargaining agreements at this point in time. And I'm not an attorney, but what I can tell you is that sections 21 through 23 is a mechanism for negotiating plan design changes.
It doesn't have anything to do with which carrier you're using. Okay, thank you. Whew. I'd like to bring up somebody else, Jason, unless you want to counter anything. Say.
Well, you already know our position.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah, fine. Nellie,
Paul can.
I'd like to bring you up, and then I'm gonna bring up any other union members that want to speak. Teachers obviously don't want this. I've seen a lot of you here last time.
Yeah, we're not fans. Hi, I'm Nellie Taylor. I'm the president of the Teachers Association. Easthampton
I forgot
Education
to say this.
Association, which represents.
You got the names of everybody that were up there?
I just don't have Jason's last name.
Oh, sorry, Dunham, D-U-N-H-A-M.
Yeah. So Nellie Taylor, you got Nellie?
Yep.
I'm sorry, I put this thing there for you to sign, and I forgot to tell everybody about it. You don't have to do that, because we don't have that many people, and Bill's on top of it, so we're okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I'm Nellie Taylor. I'm the president of the Easthampton Education Association. I represent educators, para-educators, nurses, custodians, and admin assistants who work for the city of Easthampton.
And they're all members of the union?
We are all members of the union.
Okay, good.
Yes. As Jason said, there's a standing tradition of Easthampton bargaining unions coming together at the table to discuss plan design changes and how they impact employees when the trust decides to make changes. The power of collective bargaining built the middle class of the United States. Strong labor unions and strong collective bargaining processes raise the bar, and they sustain compensation for both unionized and non-unionized employees. At this point, the city of Easthampton is able to attract and retain employees because of the current premium split with the city, 75 for the city and 25 out of pocket for employees. And because the out-of-pocket expenditures are so competitive through the trust and are better than most municipal plans. So, collective bargaining is a process by which employers and employees come to the table and figure out the best possible option for both interests. And that takes time. And as the city side has argued multiple times this evening already, the shift to 21-22 is going to accomplish a speedier process. And I don't think that's in the city's best interest. And I definitely don't think it's in the best interest of the employees of the city. Having the quickest and easiest way to accomplish something as complex as changing the way that health insurance is administered to city employees is not necessarily going to have the best outcome. And it's going to definitely impact the city's ability to attract and retain high quality employees. So, a couple of things. The city cannot be kicked out of the trust for not adopting 21 and 22. The executive committee voted today not to, the executive committee of the trust today voted, as Mr. Shea told us all, not to increase premiums this year, but to pass all of the cost increases of the purchasing insurance directly to employees of the municipalities, out of our pockets through copays and increased costs that are on the sheet in front of you. 100% is coming out of our pockets. This is functionally a pay cut for us. And we have not received cost of living pay increases for a long time in our 150E collective bargaining around salary. Now, I think it's also important to make the point that 150E collective bargaining around salary agreements come up every 2 years or 3 years or however long we have those contracts for. Plan design changes that happen in the middle of those contracts are not going to be able to be mitigated through salary increases unless we come back to the bargaining table and start those negotiations again. So preserving 150E collective bargaining rights around the savings that the city incurs in order to mitigate in an ongoing way what the out-of-pocket costs are going to be for municipal employees is vital to maintaining our competitiveness as we attract high-quality employees to the city. There are other methods of mitigation besides salary increases, and salary increases really are limited to our contractual time periods. I think, you know, it's evident that we've been able to come to the table, and our IAB now, our Insurance Advisory Board now in the city, includes members of all of the local unions, and it also includes a member from the non-union employees. So they have
Pay plan employee, you mean?
yeah, a
Okay.
non-union represented employee sits
Okay.
on the employee advisory board, and
Okay.
and so they have a voice. And as I said at the beginning of my comments, the collective bargaining process strengthens compensation for all employees, unionized and non-unionized, as a general rule across our country. So I think, you know, 21 and 22 weaken collective bargaining because they impose a 30-day time period, and we're not having full collective bargaining. We're coming to the table and saying, this is what will work for the city, this is what will work for the unions and the non-union employees, and figuring out the best way to mitigate costs in an ongoing way. We're gonna be looking at only 25% of the savings that the city incurs for 1 year. Through a collective, if 21 and 22 are adopted, through a collective bargaining process, the unions get to advocate for ongoing mitigation until the next plan design change happens. Because right now, if there's a plan design change this year and a plan design change in 5 years, there are gonna be 4 years where there is no mitigation for out-of-pocket costs for municipal employees.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
You enlightened me to something. The mitigation you're talking about is in your contract, and I assume it's in
No.
everybody's? No, the mitigation, the contract is for 3 years. But if the plan design changes, am I hearing right that you have an avenue to mitigate that with some kind of fund to help pay for, say, the co-pay increases?
So that's what the Insurance Advisory Board does now. We enter a 150E bargaining process with the city.
But that process involves, if I'm hearing this right, you negotiating, okay, can you set aside some funding to help all the employees pay for this?
Yes.
And that's what is available to every union, or just the teachers union?
It would be through the Insurance Advisory Board negotiating with the city,
All right.
is my understanding.
So I think he's asking if there's a provision in your contract, and there is a provision in the EA contracts that says that the members can be reimbursed if there's an increase in the.
Come to the podium and tell us who you are, sir.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. You're making good points. We need to know who you are.
My name's Paul DeMarco. I'm with the Massachusetts Teachers Association.
So say that, what you just said.
So I think you're asking whether there was a provision in the contract, like Jason pointed out, the firefighters' contract, sorry, in the lead to the microphone. The firefighters' contract has a provision that says it must remain in Blue Cross Blue Shield. The EEA contracts have a provision that say that if there's an increase in the deductibles, that the employer has to reimburse the members for up to $20,000 when that year the deductibles are increased. It's a one-time thing. I think Nellie was trying to answer a different question, which is around the Section 21 process. And that's also a one-time thing. So the city would keep 100% of the savings year 2, 3, 4 forever. Whereas in traditional bargaining, we could say, we want you to put every year, pick a number out of the air, $500 into an FSA or an HSA, flexible spending account for our members. Under section 21 and 22 bargaining, the city can just say, here's our proposal for spending 25% of the mitigation fund, take it or leave it. We say, no, no, no. We go to the tripartite arbitration panel 30 days later, and the panel just judges whether the employer's proposal is reasonable or not. And that's it. I had a colleague who took it through because their union wanted to see what would happen if they did. And they weren't second guessed. There's just, the employer offers the bare minimum, that's what happens.
Okay, thank you. So, the 20,000 he mentioned, which is in your contract, is that available to all the unions? Is
No,
that, that's just your?
some of this, it's an example of specific language.
It's like the firemen have Blue Cross and Blue Shield in
That's
their
right.
language. Okay.
Also,
So,
I'd like
but
to
what
point
I'm
out that
confused
I-
about is
Can I
the.
point out that I have nearly 300 members, and $20,000 over 300 members is an extremely small amount of money.
Oh, okay. That's true. The Insurance Advisory Committee now, if I understand it, can negotiate that similar kind of thing for all the members of all the unions if you wanted to. Well, you're about to get co-pay changes. And it's true. They affect the employees, whereas a premium increase would be 75-25.
That's right.
So the co-pays and everything, can you now, in the insurance advisory group, negotiate how to mitigate that by putting, what did he say, a flexible spending account or anything like that? You can't do that as the insurance advisory committee, Jason?
So we have negotiated in the past, as you guys have seen, when there was changes. But for the longest time now, we have just accepted whatever the plan side changes were.
Okay. But the Teachers Association has that $20,000. Okay. All right, I know everybody wants to talk. Do you have any, does anybody, I'll get to you next. Anybody else have questions for Nellie here? Joe? No. Bill?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dunham, take your time, sir. Does he need a hand, Jason?
No.
Okay.
Not unless I want it chopped off.
That's a lot here, wow.
Good evening, gentlemen and ladies. My name is Jim Dunn. I'm a retired fire captain from Easthampton. I am a long-time past chair of the Insurance Advisory Committee. And I presently and have for the past 24 years chaired the retirement system for the city of Easthampton. And I stand today to urge you not to adopt 21 and 22. I would love to make one or two corrections on things. When the Insurance Advisory Committee cannot decide on dispersing any kinds of money, if there's a savings in the first year, whatever that savings is, 25% of it will get distributed in some way back to the employees. And that's done by the Public Employee Committee, which consists of one member from each union within the city and a retiree who is appointed by the State Retiree Association, which in full disclosure is me. And they will decide amongst themselves how that money is to be distributed. And in the law, it gives you recommendations that money should go toward low-income people, retirees, and people that are disadvantaged in some way. But the committee would decide, you know, whatever, and they're pretty much free to do. They want to put it all against premiums or co-pays or whatever it is that they would want to do. So that's the first thing. The second thing, Years ago, the Insurance Advisory Committee would interview different insurance companies. And at one point in time, I believe we had as many as 6 different providers, almost all HMOs, but they offered different benefits and at different costs. And each individual person could elect what insurance program they wanted to go into. At some point in time, we were urged to deplete the number of providers, because if you had everyone going into one plan or 2 plans, you could get a better price. And at some point in time, our former mayor decided it would be a good idea to go to the trust, which everybody agreed with. We think it's been a wonderful program. But in all the years that I was chair of the insurance advisory, and now Pat Kuhn is, there has never been any disagreement about what benefits, one union wanting something different than another union. They have always gotten along. And it is my understanding that the municipality, if they adopt 21 and 22, can take you out without any discussion, without consulting with the counselors, without doing anything. Once that, they need the consent of the council and the mayor in order to adopt that. But once it's adopted, the mayor can do anything they want. And I have no doubt that Mayor LaChapelle likes to trust and will keep us there. But as Jason said, further down the road, we don't have any idea who may or may not, be mayor. And Councilor Rist, you probably remember the individual that was president at the meeting upstairs the last time they tried to do this. The hell with the unions, adopt this, we don't have to listen to them. And I'm sure you remember that. In any event, that's what I wanted to say, but if you have questions.
Well,
yes.
my only thing is, I'm hearing from you, you don't want this adopted. The mayor is feeling, if I heard right from her, that pay plan employees and the retirement board don't have collective bargaining rights because they're not. The retirement board has a little bit, pay plan employees don't. So she's trying to even the field in a sense by 21 and 22. But you don't feel that's enough of an, in other words, you get what everybody else gets. If other, like the teachers have this $20,000, you guys don't have a way of trying to get that kind of mitigation for increases in co-pays or whatever it is. You don't have a way of doing that now, correct?
That is correct. However, I think we're talking oranges and apples here, because this is discussing insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And if she's talking about leveling the playing field with non-union people or retirees, well, retirees get a separate insurance, okay? But the non-union people, everybody in the city gets the same insurance coverage for exactly the same price.
I know, but I was talking about the mitigation. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so adopting this doesn't change that in any way. Everything remains, that this just gives them the power to unilaterally take you and put you where they want. And many times with the Insurance Advisory Committee, we would have someone come in and lowball us and say, oh, we can give you this and this and this. Premiums are only this much, or we can save the town this much. And if you went in that plan, the next year, it was a 10 or 12% increase. Now, what's important about that is that the city paid $10,000 to get into the trust. And if we leave the trust, that's forfeited. Plus the 18 months of trailing debts, as I said. And if you try, it's, I don't know if we would ever even be able to get back into the trust if we tried to at a later point. If you did, you'd have to pay another fee to get in.
Okay, thank you very much.
You are.
Take your time. It's 10 to 8. I had promised public speak. I don't know if there's people here who are not members of a union that want to speak to this. If you're a member of the employee unions, that you have representatives. So I am opening the door now to somebody who might be here, who's been listening, who might have something to say, who's not a member of the employee unions or administration. Okay, we have somebody. Come forward. State your name for the record and where you live, please.
I'm Pat Kuhn. I'm a retired teacher. I do not belong to the labor union now, obviously.
Okay, yeah.
But I'm the chair of the Insurance Advisory Committee.
Okay, so I meant other people, but I'll let you speak. It's okay. Because you're a principal player as far as I'm concerned, but that's good.
I was very confused when I read that article in the newspaper about all the different unions. Since I've been the chairman of this committee for, I don't know, 20 years at least, and I've been on this committee half my life.
Yes.
And one time a school superintendent said to me, well, maybe the teachers ought to have a separate union. You know, we probably could do better. I bet our experience rating would be better. And I said, it's not gonna work that way in this town. We all work together. And we've been doing that ever since, and since I've been on the committee, we've always agreed, when we had negotiations, we agreed together, and we represent everybody. The non-union employees including the mayor. So I am very proud to say we have fought for all of them,
Okay.
and we all agree. Thank you.
Thank you. I got 10 more minutes. Did you want to say something, sir? Yes. I don't remember your name.
Alan Shadle.
Alan.
State your name for the record, sir.
So I'm Alan Shadle. I obviously work for the police department. I'm the representative on the insurance advisory committee for the police department. What I'm going to try to, I didn't know what was going to be said today, so I didn't prepare anything. So what I'm going to try to do is kind of fill in some of the holes. I'll probably repeat some of the things that were already said. One thing sitting there, and in listening to some of your questions, there seems to be some serious confusion. This is an extremely confusing topic. I've been on the insurance advisory committee. We're trying to figure it out for like 17 years now, so I've done this for a while. And I'll reiterate what Ms. Kuhn just said. We've always worked together. The other thing that has happened, and then one of the reasons this is confusing, because there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. The same person who is here today trying to tell you to adopt 21 and 22 was the same person who was here in 2013 telling you guys not to adopt it.
You're talking about the mayor?
No.
Oh, no.
No.
Okay. What are you talking about?
Joe. Joe was with us.
Well, I will disagree with that. I told you not to adopt 23 because
so we can.
Former mayor wanted to go into the GIC, and I said you did not want to go into the GIC.
My point exactly. Thank you. So you answered exactly what I was going to say. I'm not trying to say anything negative, but that was the point exactly. My point is, and the reason I bring that up is because at the time, the mayor, and with all due respect to the former mayor, wanted to make some changes to our insurance, and things looked great, and everything was looking, like looking through rose-colored glasses, so to speak, and things looked good. Joe came in and explained to us as the insurance advisory committee exactly why we don't want to do things, which I'm going to jump forward to Altus when Jay brought up the Altus issue with the dental. There's another situation where things look great. There was a lot of information that was given to us. We did our research very diligently. Each one of us, each member had something that we had to do, and we got it done as quickly as we could. And come to find out that that wasn't the best plan for us, and it would have cost the city a lot of money. One of the reasons that I feel, and I know the Insurance Advisory Committee people agree, that this is now being pushed, the 21 through 22, is because we are one of the top 3 in the trust, as Joe already explained. Belchertown, South Hadley, and Easthampton has the highest stakes. This past year, is a perfect example of how we can work together to
try to save the city money and stop these plan design changes because we were able to go over and lobby and we had a voice. Our voice was clearly heard, and that's one of the reasons why these changes did not happen last year. Had 21 and 22 been in effect, and or 23, so just say 21 through 23, we would not have had that voice, and we would have to accept everything as it is. We've also you guys just heard that we have to adopt these things anyways. However, when we have a voice, and when the trust is over there listening to us, and they see that we're not happy, and we're one of the top 3, and we had some of the other top people with us, now they're listening, and they know that we have a voice, and no change, and changes can be stopped, and they can actually listen. When we don't have a voice, there's going to be no reason for us to go over there.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the only other last point I want to make, and I know Jay meant to mention this, is by having what we have in place right now, we can file grievances, we can arbitrate, and we can still have that process in place. By adopting 21, 22, that eliminates that bargaining process.
Okay, thank you. So, okay. I got 5 minutes, Chief. Can you be brief? Bob Alberti, who?
Taxpayer.
Oh.
I can be brief, just not normally. This is very educational for me, that's why I'm here. But I have 2 questions. One, did South Hadley adopt this?
They
did last night.
Okay, so the big 3 to Alan's point are Belchertown, South Hadley, and us. Do we know what Belchertown did or still?
Belchertown adopted it, but last year, but they believe they didn't adopt it properly, so I believe they're adopting it or voting on it on February 11th.
The right way.
Excuse me?
The right way.
Correct.
Okay. And so my last question is, the part I don't understand is, if the city doesn't adopt this, 21 and 22 specifically, what happens? I get the sense that we're not going to be able to participate in the trust to some degree, which does that make us have
I was
direct
told
report?
no, we would still be in the trust, but the plan design changes would have to be there.
Okay.
Because if we're in the trust, we're a member of the 69. The trust says this is the new plan design changes. Either we adopt them or we get out of the trust.
That's what I thought, okay.
Is that stated correctly, Joe?
Not necessarily get out of the trust,
here.
where, thank you. If you don't adopt them, then the city's gonna have to decide what they wanna do with their insurance, in the sense that you do have some time, I guess, to negotiate with the unions, and then come back to the trust and say that you're going to take the plan. But again, the plan is going to be what it is. Benefit changes get approved next week. Or the city can go out and solicit.
And try to find other companies.
Solicit from other insurance companies.
But the bottom line is, we still have to adopt the plan as it's provided by the trust, because the executive committee is providing this, and all 69 communities have to adopt it.
Well, again, not all of them are going to adopt it because they don't have to, because they don't have a bargaining group. Where again, if you don't adopt.
I'm not talking about, I'm sorry. I used the wrong term. I'm talking about the plan design. The plan design has to be accepted by the city, because it's been brought forward by the trust, and they're a member of the 69 communities. So it has to be accepted by the city, or the city has to choose a different insurance company.
Well, that's one of their options, is to find.
But you're not going to kick us out.
No,
You're going to say.
You're not going to get a letter from the trust saying that you're out as of July 1st, 2019. But the trust will be notifying all 69 units, including the city of Easthampton, that benefit changes are taking place. Here are the benefit changes. Here is what the rate's going to be. And then it's really going to be left in your ballpark to negotiate or figure out what to do next, and whether that's a new carrier or.
Okay. One last question, Bill?
Yes.
2 last questions.
2 last questions, okay, quickly. It's late.
Go
ahead.
The comment of the savings for the first year being dispersed and the little committee getting to decide what that money goes towards. Is that true that it's only 1 year and that's not continuous?
Yes.
Okay, that information was left out, so.
That's the way the law is written.
Okay.
It's the
Yeah,
law,
I
yeah.
just wanted, it was not brought up until. that
And
did.
each community gets to determine how that is split up.
Right, but it's only 1 year,
Yeah.
so, okay, thank you.
I may have my terms wrong, but I believe the Insurance Advisory Board made up of union representatives and a combination. So first, I guess what I'm asking is, if, with the adoption of 21 and 22, does it prevent, as Officer Shada was saying, members from participating in what a future plan would be? The
Plan design.
Plan design from the.
Well, again, the plan design is determined by the 69 member units, not the IAC of Easthampton, not the IAC of South Hadley. It's the IAC of the trust.
But
So in a way, union membership doesn't have a voting say, or even really even a seat at the table with the trust. The trust is owned by 69 municipal groups. Easthampton owning, consider the trust a company with stockholders. We have 69 stockholders. Easthampton owns 11% of the trust. So
Okay.
again, the trust deals with the IAC, the 69 member units, and their representative. And it's those 69 folks that determine what the benefits and the premiums will be each year.
But Joe's question goes to what Jason said. They can go to you now, as they did in July, and try to get the plan design things that were being brought forward and lobby them now.
Well, again,
They still be able to do that after 21 and 22. That was Joe's
The unions
question.
did show up at our meeting in April, and it's the first time there was a major union presence at any of our meetings since I've been part of the trust in 7 years, and it was to, apply pressure to the trust.
And they
also
could still do that with
threaten-
21 and 22.
Well, they were threatening lawsuits around the adoption of 21 and 22. So we've gone back to all 69 units, or the units that need to adopt 21 and 22 because they're bargaining groups, and asking them to make sure that they've adopted 21 and 22 properly. And if we get all the units to adopt 21 and 22 properly, based on today's recommendation from this morning, it's going to be recommended to the IAC next Wednesday to make benefit changes.
Okay, I'll let the mayor have a brief rebuttal statement, because I'd like to conclude. We're gonna have a lot more we're gonna think a lot about this, and I expect you'll have more to say next week, but go ahead.
I just want maybe a point of clarification. So the trust comes forward with a bucket of benefits. As a member of the trust, we have that. It's not about then, from the mayor's point of view, 21 and 22 puts in course a process where everyone comes together after plan design to make next choices of how, with all the collective bargaining units and the employees. If we don't adopt 21 and 22, it's not that we leave the trust immediately, it's through another process, like 150E, where there are individual negotiations. In the past, there appears to be a history where we've come together as a community in a letter to resolve what could be individual 150E. My concern going forward for financial stability and how different health insurance is back then than now is, what if that letter can't be brought together? I feel, as a fiscal manager, again, some parts of my inner soul, that I need to present this option 21 and 22, because not only are we not going to know who's mayor, we're just not going to know, like, who's the bench with the experience around our insurance, around our city traditions, to provide some stability and a path forward. I mean, there's no perfect solution for going forward here, but to codify and to put things in place as much as possible, I think is important. And with the questions that are brought up, certainly I've been scribbling away and texting and whatnot with answers, or just to be prepared of what came up from the public, but also from the councilors. And with that, thank you very much for the time.
I'm gonna conclude this meeting tonight. I don't know if we're gonna vote next week, but I'm hoping, Joe, you can make it. If you can't make it, then I might have to delay it, but I will post the meeting. It'll be here. We've heard both sides. I'm gonna ask again for counter argument again. I'll start with the mayor next week and then with you. And if the committee decides to make a decision that night. But let me say this, I've heard a lot that I didn't know. I have a lot
to think about, and I'm gonna have to probably ask more questions. And I may, at the end of the day, still not understand the choices. But the one thing I wanted to say to the mayor and to all of the employees, we represent the taxpayers. And when the finance committee approves a budget for healthcare that last year went up 5%, I have to be leery of the fact that if we allow that to continue, Hampshire Trust right now is an excellent program, as far as I can see. They've maintained good, and the product is great for our employees. If they lose fiscal viability. I don't think the employees want that at all. So think about all that, and when you come back, I will be asking questions around how you feel moving forward, because they just came out with these plan design possibilities. And I'd like them, I'm hoping they may not be made available to you because they're not finals, but you can ask Joe if he'll give them to you, because I'd like to hear what you have to say about it.
Can I just, one real quick question to anybody. Is dental a part of this? Because I don't see any numbers around dental.
Yeah.
Is that a separate? Separate?
It's
So
a
we're
separate
not-
company, it's not
We're not
Hampshire
talking
Trust.
about dental at all in
No.
this, just medical.
That's a town plan.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.